All right, so we're diving deep today, getting into The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And this is not like your typical finance book, telling you exactly what to do. It's more about getting into the why behind our decisions about money.
Yeah, exactly. It really gets into that often irrational and emotional side of how we all think about money and make financial decisions.
It's really interesting. One of the things that really hooked me about this book is how the author uses real stories and anecdotes to show that even though our own experiences are just like a tiny snapshot of history, they have this outsized influence on how we see and operate in the financial world.
And that's actually how he starts off the book. Chapter 1, No One's Crazy. He emphasizes that everyone's financial decisions make sense to them because it's based on their own unique background and experiences.
Yeah, and there's this line in the book that really stuck with me. It's your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.000000001% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works.
It's kind of crazy to think about, like 80%. That's such a huge impact that our little small experiences, even the really tiny ones, can have on how we make decisions today.
Absolutely. Imagine like someone who grew up, let's say during the Great Depression. Their
Yeah.
whole approach to saving and investing would be so shaped by that experience, even decades later.
Yeah, our past really has a way of kind of hanging on to us sometimes in ways that we don't even realize. So it's like everyone's looking at the same financial world, but through these completely different lenses.
Right.
So I guess one of the big takeaways from this first chapter is maybe just to be less judgmental about other people's financial choices.
Exactly. You never really know the full story behind those
All
decisions.
right. Okay. So let's jump ahead to chapter 2, Luck and Risk. In this chapter, Housel throws out this idea that nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems.
So what do you think he's getting at there?
I think he's really trying to highlight the role of luck and risk in our lives. We often attribute success purely to skill, but chance plays a big role.
Right.
And on the flip side, you can make what seem like smart choices and still have things go wrong due to factors that are totally outside of your control.
And then he makes this even bolder statement, he says. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. How is that even possible?
Well, his argument is that a small number of decisions often account for the majority of outcomes. Have you ever heard of the Pareto principle?
Yeah, vaguely.
So it's like the idea that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so he basically applies that to investing. It means that, like, a few big wins can outweigh a bunch of smaller losses.
So it's not about being right all the time. It's about being right on those few decisions that really have a big impact.
Exactly, those key decisions that really kind of make all the difference.
But then how do you prepare for all those times when things inevitably go wrong?
Well, that's where having a margin of safety comes in. Think of it as like a financial cushion to absorb any unexpected setbacks.
Right, having that buffer. Okay, chapter 3, never enough. This one just feels like a universal struggle. It's like no matter how much we have, we always seem to want more.
Yeah, it's a human nature.
Yeah.
And Housel really gets into that idea of how human desires are constantly evolving.
Right, we achieve one goal and immediately we're on to the next one.
And the goalpost keeps shifting, and we rarely actually take the time to define what enough really means for us.
He even says the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. So how do we actually define what enough is?
Well, it's different for everyone. It's a deeply personal thing. But I think one of the things Housel really encourages readers to do is to examine what truly brings contentment.
Right.
Instead of always chasing the next shiny thing, think about what would truly make you feel satisfied, what would make you feel like you have enough, and then align your financial goals with those deeper values.
So it's not about like a specific number in your bank account. It's more about like a feeling.
Yeah, exactly. True wealth is about having the resources to live a meaningful life, not just accumulating more and more stuff.
That makes sense. Okay, on to chapter 4, confounding compounding. This one, I have a feeling it's all about patience.
You got it. Housel is a huge believer in the power of time. When it comes to investing, he argues that consistent small actions can have this massive impact over time. Time is the secret sauce. It magnifies those small actions.
He has this great analogy in the book. He says, time is the most powerful component of wealth. I love that idea. It's like time is doing the heavy lifting for you, even if the initial effort seems small.
Yeah, it's like, imagine you're rolling a snowball down a hill.
Mm-hmm.
It starts small, but with each rotation, it picks up more snow, it gains size and momentum.
Yeah.
That's the magic of compounding at work.
So the takeaway here is start early and be consistent.
Exactly. Even if it's a small amount, Just start investing early and let time work its magic.
Got it. Play the long game. Okay, Chapter 5, Getting Wealthy versus Staying Wealthy. This is where things start to get interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Housel makes this really clear distinction between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Building wealth and then keeping it are two totally different things.
Right.
Staying wealthy requires a whole different mindset. It's about avoiding those mistakes that can totally derail you.
And he has another one of those great quotes in this chapter. He says, good investing is not necessarily about making good decisions. It's about consistently not screwing up. So is it more about, like, playing defense than offense?
Exactly. It's about avoiding those big mistakes, diversifying your investments, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
And not letting your emotions kind of drive your decisions in the moment.
It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of making money and then forgetting about protecting what you already have.
It's very easy to do.
So discipline and patience are key here, right?
Absolutely. Staying wealthy is a marathon, not a sprint.
All right, on to Chapter 6, Tails You Win. This title definitely has me intrigued. What's this one all about?
Okay, so here, Housel's talking about rare, extreme events.
Okay.
The tails of the probability curve. These things might not happen often, but when they do, they can have a massive impact on your life, like those black swan events that nobody sees coming.
So it's about being prepared for the unexpected.
Exactly. He says, you don't have to be the best. You just have to be good enough, for long enough, and with a few meaningful opportunities.
So it's about, like, staying in the game, being consistent, and then being ready to capitalize when those big opportunities do come along.
Exactly.
That's great advice, and I think it's a great place to kind of pause for now. We've covered so much ground in just these first few chapters, and we're just scratching the surface of what Housel has to offer. So we'll dive into the rest of the book in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so picking up where we left off, Chapter 7, Freedom, Housel, really tackles this concept that I think we all crave but often misunderstand, and that is financial freedom.
Yeah, that's a good one. What's his take on it?
Well, he argues that true freedom comes from having control over your time. It's not just about, like, having a big bank account.
Right.
It's about having that flexibility to spend your time doing what really matters most to you.
So it's not just about the money itself. It's about what the money enables you to do, like how it impacts your life.
Exactly. It's about having options, the
Mhm.
ability to say yes to the things that you want to do and no to the things you don't, without having to constantly worry about the financial implications.
Okay, that makes sense. So, Chapter 8, Man in the Car Paradox. This title sounds pretty intriguing. What's going on in this chapter?
So in this one, Housel kind of exposes the trap of social comparison.
Okay.
He argues that we often make financial decisions not based on what we actually need or what really aligns with our values and our goals, but to impress other people.
It's like that whole, like, keeping up with the Joneses thing.
Exactly, like you buy a fancy car not because you actually need it, but because you think it'll make you look successful.
Yeah, we've all probably fallen into that trap at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the key takeaway here, I think, is to define your own version of success. Like, what does success really mean to you? And make sure it's rooted in your values, not in, like, what society expects or what other people are doing.
Right, kind of blocking out all that outside noise.
Exactly.
So, Chapter 9, Wealth is What You Don't See. Now, this one really makes you think.
Yeah, I love this chapter. It's where he really challenges the conventional definition of wealth.
Okay.
He says, wealth is what you don't see. It is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought. It's all about what you're saving, not what you're spending.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's more about building that kind of, like, financial security behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's about having that solid foundation, a cushion for unexpected expenses, investments that are working for your future. Those things might not be flashy, but they're the true markers of wealth.
It's like having that peace of mind, knowing that you're financially secure, even if it doesn't always show in some, like, outward way.
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay, Chapter 10, Save Money. This one seems pretty straightforward. What's he getting at here?
Well, even though it sounds simple, saving money is often easier said than done.
Right.
So he really emphasizes making saving a habit, a non-negotiable part of your financial plan.
Like setting up those automatic transfers, that kind of thing.
Exactly, automate it. He even says building wealth has little to do with your income or investment returns and lots to do with your saving rate. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
So even if you're not making a ton of money, if you're really good at saving, you can still be successful.
Absolutely. It's about discipline and delaying gratification.
Okay, Chapter 11, Reasonable Rational. What's the difference here?
So here he's arguing that when it comes to investing, it's more important to be reasonable than strictly rational.
Okay.
Being rational means making decisions based purely on logic and data, but we're humans, we're not robots.
Right. Emotions play a huge role.
Exactly. We get scared, we get greedy. So being reasonable means like acknowledging those human factors, finding an investment strategy that you're comfortable with.
That you can stick with long term.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Chapter 12. Surprise. I'm guessing this chapter is about expecting the unexpected.
You got it. It's a good reminder that life throws curveballs. You can't predict the future. Your financial plan has to be flexible to adapt to the unexpected.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. He says, history is the study of change, ironically used as a map of the future. We try to use the past to predict the future, but things are always changing.
That's the irony. So how do you plan for the unknown, I think he would say? Have a margin of safety. Build in that buffer.
Right. So being prepared for the unexpected, even if you don't know what form it's going to take.
Exactly.
Okay, chapter 13, room for error. Feels like a continuation of that.
It is, and this chapter really is all about embracing uncertainty and planning for those inevitable surprises. He says, planning is important, but the most important part of every plan is to plan on the plan not going according to plan.
So true.
It's all about being realistic. We don't have all the answers and things will inevitably go wrong. We have to factor in that uncertainty.
It's about being humble and recognizing that we can't control everything.
Exactly. Accepting that we'll make mistakes and having a plan to deal with those mistakes when they happen.
Yeah, that's a really important mindset shift, especially when it comes to something as important as our finances. Okay, so moving on to chapter 14, you'll change. This one makes me think about how much we all evolve over time. Our goals, our priorities, even our personalities change.
Yeah, what seems important today might not be as important to you 5 or 10 years down the road.
Definitely. So how does that play into our financial planning?
Well, our financial plans need to be flexible enough to adapt to those changes. We shouldn't get too locked into a rigid plan that doesn't allow for any course correction as our lives unfold.
Right.
He puts it perfectly. The only financial plan that matters is the one that helps you sleep at night.
I love that. It's about finding that peace of mind, knowing that your financial plan is working for you, not against you.
Exactly. All right, chapter 15, nothing's free. Simple concept, but pretty profound.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more to this than meets the eye. What's he talking about here?
He's reminding us that every financial decision comes with trade-offs. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Right.
Every choice has a cost, even if it's not immediately apparent. Like he says, everything has a price, but not all prices appear on labels.
So it's about being mindful of those hidden costs, the things we might be sacrificing when we make a decision.
Exactly. It could be the opportunity cost of investing in one thing versus another, or the psychological toll of taking on too much debt. It's about being aware of the potential downsides, not just the upsides.
Right, really weighing all the options. Okay, chapter 16, you and me. Now this one seems like it's getting into the social side of finance.
It is. This chapter is all about the social influences that can shape our behavior. Our environment, the people we surround ourselves with, the messages we're exposed to. All of these things play a role.
So we're all influenced by our social circles in ways that we might not even realize.
Yeah, and he has this great line. He says, beware taking financial cues from people playing a different game than you are.
That's a good point. Like, we shouldn't just blindly follow advice from someone whose circumstances and goals might be totally different from our own.
Exactly. You need to be discerning, find role models and mentors who are aligned with your values and your aspirations.
Okay, that makes sense. Chapter 17, the seduction of pessimism. I feel like this is something we see a lot, especially when it comes to the news and media. Why is pessimism so appealing, especially when we're talking about money?
Well, Housel argues that pessimism just sounds smarter, more credible than optimism.
Really?
He observes, optimism sounds like a sales pitch. Pessimism sounds like someone trying to help you.
It's like we're more likely to trust someone who's cautious and realistic, even if they're being overly negative.
Right, and that negativity can really hold us back. When it comes to money, that pessimism can lead to fear, inaction, missed opportunities.
So how do we combat that?
I think it's about maintaining a balanced perspective, acknowledging the risks, but also embracing the potential for growth and opportunity.
So finding that middle ground. Okay, chapter 18, when you'll believe anything. This sounds like we're really getting deep into the psychology here.
Oh, we are. This chapter is all about how our beliefs can shape our reality, especially when it comes to money. He argues that we're drawn to stories, especially stories that confirm what we already believe.
Right, confirmation bias.
Exactly. And he says, the more you want something to be true, the more likely you are to believe a story that overestimates the odds of it being true. We tend to cherry pick information that fits our narrative, even if it's not accurate or helpful.
So we're kind of like fooling ourselves in a way.
Yeah, a lot of the time. So, how do we avoid falling for those narratives? Be critical thinkers, question your assumptions, and seek out diverse perspectives.
So not just surrounding ourselves with people who agree with us all the time.
Exactly. He reminds us that everyone has an incomplete view of the world, but we form a complete narrative to fill in the gaps. It's about recognizing the limitations of our own knowledge and being open to learning from others.
Right, having that humility. Okay, chapter 19. All together now. This one seems like it's bringing back in that social element that we talked about earlier.
It is. This chapter really emphasizes the social aspect of finance and how important relationships are for our well-being.
Okay.
He has this really beautiful line. He says, being good with money means nothing if you're not good with people.
So it's not just about like numbers and spreadsheets. It's about how we connect with others.
Yeah, our relationships with family, friends, mentors, even financial advisors, all those people can really impact our financial choices and outcomes.
So it's about like building that support system, having people we can trust and learn from.
Exactly. And that leads us to the final chapter, chapter 20, Confessions.
Okay, so what's he confessing to?
Well, in this chapter, Housel actually reflects on his own journey with money, the mistakes he's made, the lessons he's learned along the way. It's a good reminder that we're all on our own paths, and it's okay to make mistakes, as long as we're learning and growing.
Yeah, it's nice to know that even someone who writes a book about money still makes mistakes.
Exactly. And he closes with a powerful message. He says, the irony of good investing is that it's not about investing. It's about setting wills and being patient. It really brings us back full circle to the core message of the book.
It's about understanding your why, defining what really matters to you and making choices that support those goals.
Exactly.
Well, we spent a lot of time with Morgan Housel and his book, The Psychology of Money.
Yeah.
What stands out to you now that we've gone through the whole thing?
It's fascinating, right? You don't always realize how much our emotions and our past experiences can shape our financial decisions.
Yeah, and Housel doesn't shy away from that.
Right.
He really gets into those often overlooked, surprisingly human aspects of managing money. We talked about everything from the allure of pessimism to the importance of defining what enough truly means for each of us.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one takeaway, one key message for our listener, what would it be?
It all comes back to this. Financial success isn't just about mastering numbers. It's about understanding your own psychology, those unique biases and experiences that shape your decisions.
It's about having a healthy relationship with money, not letting it control your life or dictate your worth. It's also important to remember, everyone starts at a different point with different goals.
Exactly. There isn't a single right way to approach money. It's about finding what works for you, what aligns with your values, and gives you that peace of mind.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, I want to challenge our listeners. What's one step, big or small, that you can take based on what we've discussed today?
Yeah, think about that. It could be finally setting up an automatic savings plan, maybe revisiting your investment strategy, or even just becoming more aware of your spending habits.
The key is to actually put these insights into action. Turn the information into a positive change.
Don't just let it wash over you. Pick one thing, commit to it.
Because ultimately, financial freedom is a journey, not a destination. There will be challenges, but with a bit of self-awareness and a desire to learn, you can achieve your goals.
The power to shape your financial future is in your hands.
And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the psychology of money. We hope you've enjoyed exploring these ideas with us. Keep learning, keep growing, and always remember, the best investment you can make is in yourself.